Oh, Vegas, baby, Vegas. You're so money, baby. Look at it. Yes, it is a business trip for Syracuse football, and it is a business trip for us. And this is the place of business, Allegiant Stadium, Syracuse, UNLV, Friday night lights. It's going to be a late one for people on the East Coast and on the West Coast for that matter. We're going to be all over it, Emily, for sure. And man, we are having a ball so far in Sin City. I am overwhelmed. I am, she's a veteran for Vegas. She's taking it all in. Ace photographer Scott Trimble, same thing. I'm just bug-eyed everywhere. Look at that, there's Elvis. Like, this is incredible. This is America at its best. So how do you have a business trip in Vegas? It's impossible. You know, Kyle McCord and some of the players we talked to this week, they're like, oh, it's a business trip. If you can focus on all that in this city, I give you more credit than is I can hand out all the chips in Vegas for that, because that is incredible to focus with this city. But that's what they're here for, Emily, to play UNLV in this building.
Yeah, and you know, we have a lot to talk about the game, but I think we kind of have some things that we've worked on in the week leading up to the game that we can talk about a little bit. And you know, you just mentioned team is treating this like a business trip, as they should, and the way they've been doing that is by not being on the strip, right? So
yes.
that is a big key to keeping this a business trip for this Syracuse football team.
It's incredible. We took a tour of Allegiant Stadium. You can check that out on syracuse.com, behind the scenes footage. This place is world class. When you come to this stadium, if you are coming to the game here in Vegas, look, this is as good as it gets in the world for a football stadium. Obviously, they play the Super Bowl here, the Raiders play here, but for UNLV to play their games here as well, now that UNLV's 4-0, they're getting some attention. Right now, they could, if they're hopefully not successful against Syracuse, as the fans would say, but if they keep this up, Emily, they could be a group of 5 playoff team. And I don't know how you don't recruit at a place like this. So having seen what you're going to see if you come into the stadium and a little behind the scenes as well, this is as world-class a facility as it gets. So the fan experience you're going to have here is absolutely incredible if you've never been here before. Fans are having a great time in Vegas as well, and you've been here before. I have not been here before, so I'm just taking in the sights, how huge the buildings are. Like, we're staying in the Luxor, right? And just everything about that building itself, and just all the overwhelming aspects of Vegas. I have become the biggest tourist in the world. I am just bug-eyed and overwhelmed by everything. And, you know, there's expression, Emily, that's out there, and I know a lot of you guys are going to have a little something on the game, but, you know, at the end of the day, Vegas wants your money. And I've kind of gotten that sense being out here. I mean, all the bells and whistles are great, but they want you sitting in front of that slot machine just going bing, bang, boom all night long. So America at its best. You got to love it.
Yeah. Should we talk about the football game now, Brent?
Yeah, I guess so. We can talk about the football game. So UNLV comes in 4-0. They went through the Matt Sluka thing last week, right? It put all this extra attention on UNLV. And all Haj Malik Williams did is come in and basically outperform Matt Sluka, right? He had 159 yards on the ground. He had a rushing touchdown. He had 3 touchdowns through the air. And Emily, look, that is where this game begins. Syracuse has got to find a way to contain Haj Malik Williams. Now, the question is, if you're going to spy Haj Malik Williams, for example, is that Justin Barron? This is where Marlowe Wax, still being out for this team, comes into play. Do they do something similar like they did to Georgia Tech, who came in with a mobile quarterback? Like, when you really bear it down and get to the business at hand in this football game, trying to contain Haj Malik Williams is where every conversation starts for the Syracuse defense.
Right, he led in both rushing and passing last week for UNLV against Fresno State in a big-time win. Obviously, Fresno State isn't like a super highly ranked team, but that was a big win for UNLV, and he led in both of those categories. And, you know, one thing I had been curious about when the QB change happened for them is, like, how much does this change what offense UNLV is running? Is anything really different there? And, you know, just looking at the score, we kind of figured, no, it wasn't. They didn't really miss a beat going into that Fresno State game with Haj Malik Williams. But I asked Fran just for clarification and to get kind of his perspective on Monday, and he was like, nope, you know, Coach Brennan Marion, he's their offensive coordinator. He was like, he recruits for his system. He finds quarterbacks that can do the things that both Sluka and now Williams are doing, and so that's being that dual threat guy, you know. we've seen those types of quarterbacks for Syracuse in recent years, right? Like Garrett Schrader was a little bit closer to these type of guys, so I think that helps that a lot of these defensive players have that experience in practice and going up against someone like that, but certainly will be interesting to see how they adjust and go after him. You mentioned the Georgia Tech game. Fadil Diggs played a lot at linebacker in that game, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that we see again, but certainly Haj Malik Williams, number one guy that you're interested to see from the Rebels this weekend.
Yeah, the dude's a water bug. He's hard to contain. He can throw on the run. Ricky White III is the guy that pops in the receiving stats. He's somebody that Syracuse is really going to have to keep a close eye on here for a secondary that's had its moments this year, both good and bad. So this is a team that's averaging 45 points a game.
Crazy.
They're 10th in the country. We could be dead wrong here, but I don't know, Emily. Everything I feel about this game, maybe it's because we're in Vegas, all in. Chips in the middle of the table, shootout, back and forth, aggressive type of football. That's not taking anything away from UNLV's defense, which I think has been pretty impressive this year, but you mentioned it. The competition they've had, let's just say, it's not Syracuse to this point. So I want to see what that defensive approach is, and if it is the defense and the dudes, or if it's been the opponents that UNLV has faced so far. Because look, this is a Syracuse offense that's coming in. We've said it before, we're going to say it again. Kyle McCord, okay? He would be Sinatra in this town, all right? He's the guy. 4 straight 300-yard passing games. That's never happened in Syracuse history, and he always gives you a chance to win. And Emily, with Will Nixon out, to throw that into the mix here, I think you do have to go out there and sling it a little bit more, because I think LaQuinn Allen could carry you so much. We'll see if you've seen Willis, can step in, my guy, and help carry that running game. But I want to see a shootout. I want to see two teams just sling it out in a Super Bowl-like stadium like this, and I think that is ultimately what this game's going to end up being.
Look, I mean, I completely agree. My official prediction when we put them out on Wednesday morning was 28-27 Syracuse win. I think this is going to come down to the last second. It's going to come down to small moments. One thing that it's really going to come down to, I think, is third downs. That is a very important category going into this game, very important stat. Syracuse's offense is number 8 in the country currently in third down conversion percentage, and UNLV's defense is number 8 in third down completion percentages against opponents. So I think it's something like Syracuse converts 50% of its third downs, and UNLV only allows 20% of its opponents' third downs to be converted. So that's certainly going to be an interesting battle on the opposite sides of the ball. So Syracuse's defense, UNLV's offense, it's also a very similar percentage. I think it's 30-30 for both of them. So that is going to be a really key stat we're watching. That's something that Kyle McCord mentioned to us on Tuesday.
That's
too.
Right. Yeah.
I asked him at the very end of his time with us Tuesday night, like, hey, just what are you seeing out of UNLV's defense? And he was like, they're really good on third downs. And you know what he said? He said, they're good on third downs because they're good on first and second, and they keep you to short yardage on first and second, and so then you go into third down, third and long. Can't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head, but you can find it in my Things to Know piece I wrote about going into the game. Syracuse has kind of been like 50-50 on third and long situations. They're, I believe, like something around 9 conversions on third and long situations, which would be 9+ yards. So going to be a little tricky going in there. They're really going to want to get those first and second downs down.
Now we're talking about the shootout and things to look out for in this game and the stars. Look, special teams matter. Syracuse is having a real issue on special teams right now. We saw 2 kickers miss 3 field goals indoors against Holy Cross last week. They're indoors for the 5th straight game, albeit in a different setting here, right? Fran Brown said earlier this week, may the best man win. We've got 3 kickers in essentially the middle of the season, Emily. This is game 4, and they're kind of getting down the road here a little bit with a kicker competition. You don't want to hear that. Penalties were an issue for Syracuse on special teams. They had 2 good kick returns against Holy Cross, wiped by penalties.
Yeah.
Not good. And let me throw this in the mix too. Last week in this building, UNLV 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns, including a 90-yard score in that building. So in a closer game, which all of us kind of feel like it could be, those mistakes pile up. It's not just, field position, it's points, it's you got to score in the red zone. It's all those things that matter on special teams. UNLV does not have an issue on special teams from what we've seen. Syracuse absolutely does. So that could just be one of those things. You know, there's Vegas, and then there's Old Vegas, and then there's like the places that like I don't know the name of them. Like we saw one the other night. It was called the Oasis, and it looked like the same sign from the 1940s, right? That's still here. Off the strip, right? You don't want to go that far off the strip to find the story of this game, but a special teams moment could be it. It's not everything in the headlines we're talking about. It could be a mistake like that could cost Syracuse and what we think will be a close game.
Right, and I think the issues on special team will impact a little bit what they do offensively, right? Like, fourth down situation, if you're close, like even if you're in field goal territory, they might just go for it instead of trotting out Denberg or Jaden O or even Jackson Kennedy, who's that third kicker in the mix there. So that is a problem that extends beyond just the special teams units and into other things. So it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out.
Special teams always matter. So much to talk about with the matchup and where we are and just the circumstances of it. But Emily, as you look at this game, you had some great reporting on something that people should check out on syracuse.com, behind the scenes, the process of getting here and coming across the country to play a game, Syracuse out west, and just as you look at not only the matchups but everything involved here, what are some other things you think are going to be key in this matchup between the Orange and the Rebels?
Right, well, I mean, it's just interesting to see how Syracuse responds on its first road trip, but also on a road trip across the country. And this is one that Syracuse is using as a test run of sorts for its trip to Cal in November, which will be even farther than the trip out to Vegas. Yeah. So, you know, they came out early as well. They have obviously support staff who's been here since early in the week. The truck left last Sunday and did all that, and you can read all about that on syracuse.com. But I think the big thing with the players that has been emphasized and we've heard a couple times is hydration and just making sure they stay as close to their routine as possible. So like they're eating the same pregame meals, they're eating at the same time pregame as they normally would. They made sure to practice on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. here in Las Vegas so that they had that feel of what's it like to play from 6 to 8, from 6 to 9 in Vegas on Pacific time. So did a lot behind the scenes, like credit to Ryan Kelly and the crew and that support staff and football operations gang. They did a great job from everything we heard, and now we get to see if it all pans out and works out on the field.
UNLV at Allegiant Stadium. Syracuse is going to go to Atlanta to play Tennessee next year. They're going to go to Dallas to play SMU. They go to South Bend, a more traditional, of course, football atmosphere. This is really the start of the next couple of years, Emily, of some fascinating road trips for Syracuse football. I'll see if I can talk the bosses into going on a few more of those, because I had to come on the Vegas trip here. But look, you may like or not like conference realignment and where college football is, and it's the All-Coast Conference for a reason. But it also provides you these opportunities, not this game in particular because it's a non-conference game, but if you're going to play a non-conference game, do it this way. Do it big. Do it in the place they do it bigger than anywhere, in Vegas, right? I don't think that game's in Jerry World at SMU, but you're going to be in a big city. And just the road trips that you are going to be, I'm not even trying to do a commercial for Syracuse here, it's just a fact. The road trips you're going to be able to take as a Syracuse football fan in the next couple of years, not to mention Army. One of the best places you can go in the fall in the world is West Point. Syracuse is going to be playing there in the next couple of years. So, I mean, what an opportunity for Syracuse football fans to travel, see different places they haven't been. Like Uncle Brent here has never been to Vegas. And, you know, at the end of the day, there's some business to take care of and there's a football game to go to. But I think that's really cool. And I think that's an awesome opportunity. And we've seen so many Syracuse fans here. The meetup we had at the Venetian with our Syracuse Sports Insiders, the things our Syracuse Sports Insiders have been sending us. They're here and they're sending us their photos of what they're doing and where they are. I mean, what a cool opportunity. That's what college football is all about.
Yeah, it's great to be on a big stage for Syracuse, and, you know, I think that plays into some of the game as well. Like, I'm very clearly the one tying all of this back to the game in this podcast, but, you know, the fact that they can come in here and be the spoiler too, as you mentioned, a UNLV team that might be looking at a playoff berth if the cards fall the right way for them, like in a big city, in an NFL venue. Like, that's the type of motivation you want if you're Fran Brown giving it to your team. I mean, we saw what he did with Brent Key's little quote before the Georgia Tech game and playing that over and over and how riled up that got the guys. So, like, I don't know, if I'm Fran, I'm saying, hey, go upset these guys. Go make sure you take them out of the playoff race right now. And so That would be my message to
Look,
the team.
to use a Vegas term, they're playing with house money. All the spotlights on UNLV for all the reasons we mentioned, the way they're playing, the Matthew Sluka NIL story, which is starting to fade a little bit, but if you know about UNLV football right now, you can't not talk about that. The fact they're in contention for the college football playoff. And the other thing is, Emily, there is not a sports book in my view here of Las Vegas you're going to go into where you're going to find Syracuse to be the favorite. So what a better place to show up and win as an underdog than in the very place where the sharps make the lines and the bigwigs make the lines. And so you think we're an underdog? No, we came to your city, the people that set that line, and I've seen it anywhere from 3.5, 4.5. I think it opened as a touchdown underdog for Syracuse against UNLV, so depending which sports book you walk in and what kind of line you get here, but what a better place to shove it in their nose than the place they make the lines, right here in Vegas.
And it does really nothing to their chances of making the ACC championship game or the playoff if they still want to get there. Like, they have everything on their side in this matchup because it's a non-conference game. Like, they can still go out and win out the rest of the season, make it to the championship, the ACC championship, that is, no matter what this game goes. So, like, you want to come home with the win, but like you said, it's house money. Like, they also don't really have much working against them either right now.
All right, I know I keep getting away from the football game here, Emily, but as we head down the home stretch here, there's so much to do here, okay? But for those that come to Vegas, give me the 2 or 3 things you have to do before you leave, right?
Oh, boy.
I mean, you got to go on the Strip, but you got to go to the Bellagio, right? You got to see the fountains.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something you absolutely have to do. There's so much you can see from the Strip itself. You know, if you come to the game at Allegiant Bank Stadium and you get this view that we're getting, like, there's so much you can see, but it's deceiving because it's not like you can walk up and down the Strip like you can like New York City and see everything. Like, you do have to hop in Ubers and taxis to kind of get to where you got to go, but it's all within a small range of area where you can get it. So I don't know. I think the Bellagio fountains are at the top of my list. I mean, there's so many things. There's so many shows you can go to, but what is the Emily Leiker? You got to do it. Vegas visit if you come. Especially for first timers like me.
I was going to say, the last 48 hours are the first 48 hours I've spent as an adult here. So quite a bit different than when I was 12 years old and would have told you the M&M store and the Coca-Cola store. But I think going up to Fremont Street, we had a great time in Old Vegas up at Fremont Street last night, meeting our friend Mike Curtis for dinner. Fremont Street's a great spot. If you're into zip lining, we tried to get Brent to zip line and he declined that.
Nope.
But if you're into zip lining, then I would go to Fremont Street. I think obviously if you're into gambling, or even if you're not, like, you might try your hand at it. I never played slots before. I did it on Wednesday night. I don't think I'm ever going to do it again. So out of the way on that. But yeah, the fountain, I think a show, if you can get to one, there's obviously so many different types of shows you can see here in Vegas. And the Sphere, the Sphere is the new one. We haven't been too close to it yet. I don't know if we will on the trip, but we drove by it a couple times the other night, and it's interesting. It's a very interesting piece of architecture.
The Sphere at night is a sight to behold. And now, Emily, as we record this, I don't think it's happened yet, but can we just talk to the people at the Sphere for a minute? You have a very round object, and Syracuse has a very round, friendly, fuzzy mascot whose name is Otto.
Mm-hmm.
Can we please have that visual? Otto the Orange as the Sphere.
You can only do it if they win, I think.
Fair point. Syracuse wins, Otto becomes the Sphere. Deal? I think we got a deal here. I think we got to see that happen. That would be incredible. But the Sphere has become, like, probably at the top of the list of must-sees. Notice we didn't say gamble. I think that's kind of built in.
Well, I kind of did, but...
I believe it or not, as we speak, have not lost any money yet.
I have.
Yet being the key operative phrase in that statement. There we go. So we're having a blast. If you are coming to Vegas, how could you not have a blast? But we have been so far so fun to see so many Syracuse fans. We know we're going to see so many more at the game. We're going to have full coverage before, during, and after the game. So our Syracuse Sports Insiders, you guys know, we're going to send you photos and pictures and behind the scenes. We already did of the Allegiant Stadium tour that we took on Thursday, but from the game itself, you're going to see what Syracuse fans are up to in Allegiant Stadium, and then our full coverage during the game. Emily and I are going to do a post-game podcast after Syracuse and UNLV as well. So we're just getting started here in Vegas. There's still plenty more to come, including here on the Syracuse Sports Podcast, presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. For Emily Leiker, I'm Brent Dax. Forgive me, I got to do it. Thank you. Thank you very much.